Hello and welcome to Dining with the Disappeared. On this episode, we discuss individuals who have vanished. We talk about the circumstances of their disappearance. We talk about the locations that they disappeared from. And as always on this channel, we incorporate an element of food, meaning we talk about the food in that location. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. In this episode, we discuss memories of childhood trauma and sexual abuse. Please take that into consideration before watching. Asha Kreimer was born on May 2, 1989 in Hilo, Hawaii, but spent the majority of her life in Australia. Friends report that she was highly intelligent, well-liked, and loved by her friends. They say that she was popular and was an old soul who had kind of a sixth sense for knowing what was trendy before everyone else did. Her friends knew her as kind of a style icon. She did some work in the Aboriginal communities after high school and also studied art and massage. She and her sister decided, kind of out of the blue, to move to San Francisco for a little while, but things changed when Asha met a man and fell in love. When she was 26 years old, she had been in the States for 3 years and was living with her boyfriend, Jemai Gale, in Albion, California. Jemai said Asha had fallen into depression and wanted to go to therapy. She seemed to be experiencing extreme anxiety about the upcoming visit of her friend, Sally Scales, from Australia. After they picked this friend, Sally, up from the airport, Asha began acting strangely. She sat in the car at a farmer's market and kind of acted withdrawn, and then suddenly began speaking about childhood sexual trauma. She told Jemai that she and her friend Sally had been going through some old photos, and a photo of a white house prompted these triggered memories of childhood abuse. Her mental state continued to decline until she suffered a very severe mental crisis that continued for 4.5 days without sleep. She was wandering around their home and shouting incoherently. She could not be consoled or calmed, and she would not lie down to sleep. She began sitting, silently gesticulating her hands by twisting her wrists, kind of back and forth with her fingers wide open. She wouldn't speak and she wouldn't let anyone know what was going on. Her boyfriend and friend knew that they had to get her help, so on September 20th, 2015, she was taken to Mendocino Coast District Hospital in Fort Bragg, California. Upon arriving, she was placed in a wheelchair, but as they were wheeling her down the hallway, she stomped her feet onto the floor, which stopped the wheelchair. She stood up and then nearly fell over. They finally got her into a private room, and the staff at the hospital began doing a 5150 evaluation to determine whether or not she was a danger to herself or others. In the middle of this evaluation, Asha suddenly got up and ran from the hospital. Jemai chased her with no assistance from the hospital staff. I find that detail very odd and quite troubling. Jemai followed Asha at kind of a distance and he called 911. He continued to shadow her until the police showed up. Asha was then taken back to the hospital for evaluation. She continued to act very strangely and withdrawn. She scribbled on her HIPAA form instead of signing it, and she refused to answer questions. Now, all of this sounds kind of familiar to those of us who listen to these types of stories or maybe know someone who deals with these issues. They're very common, but what is not common is the outcome of this day at the hospital. Even though the police had to be called, even though she was acting very strangely, even though she ran out of the hospital and had to be chased, they let her go home. They determined that it was okay to release her back to her boyfriend and the friend, and I'm not saying that's their fault. I just can't imagine why more wasn't done to help this young woman. Now, some reports say that after Asha was released, they went out to eat. But I read more reports, multiple reports, that said they actually went home first, where Asha continued to act strangely. She refused to eat, and she wandered around outside their home. The next morning, Jemai put Asha on the phone with his mother, and Asha immediately perked up and became more upbeat and normal sounding, almost like she was trying to say, everything's okay, don't worry about me. Jemai was concerned that she hadn't eaten anything in days, and he thought maybe if they put her in the car and took her out to eat and get coffee, which is something she liked to do, they could convince her to eat something. So he puts her in the car, and he and Sally took her to the Rollerville Cafe, an old school American diner. Asha did not touch her food and wouldn't participate in any conversation at the table. At about 9:30 a.m., Asha's friend got up from the table to go to the restroom. A moment later, Asha decided that she would go to the bathroom as well and followed her friend. Now, Sally was unaware that Asha was a few seconds behind her. Jemai went to the car to wait as the trio were finished eating. Sally then comes to the car and Jemai says, "Where's Asha?" and tells her that Asha has also gone to the restroom. Sally says she never saw Asha in the restroom. The two of them begin to panic and they search the restroom, the restaurant, and the area outside of the building. For 3 hours, the pair frantically searched the area to no avail. Asha Kreimer had vanished into thin air. This is a really strange story, and when I show you the little restaurant, it's going to be even stranger for you. It's the middle of the day. This is a crowded restaurant, and it is not a large space. This girl literally just poof and was gone. Jemai and Sally alerted the police, who begin to search for Asha. They find nothing. A missing persons report was then created stating that at the time of her disappearance, Asha was barefoot and dressed in black skinny jeans and a gray hoodie. She had no money, no credit cards, and no identification. The only trace of Asha Kreimer was her jacket that was later found by the side of the road heading to the Point area light. She has not been seen nor heard from since her visit to the Rollerville Cafe. On the day that Asha disappeared, a surfer thinks he may have seen her around 3 o'clock, but that cannot be confirmed. Now, her German Shepherd also disappeared on the day she did, so police believe that she somehow made it home and retrieved her dog. A neighbor of Asha's reported seeing her trying to hide out in a trailer on his property and actually spoke to her. As if this story wasn't strange enough, the neighbor that reported seeing Asha disappeared himself almost 3 years to the day that Asha disappeared. Now, the police don't think the two disappearances are connected or anything like that, but I mean, gosh, if you feel like aliens are visiting and snatching people up from certain locations, that might be a theory here. For months, the search for Asha continued. Reports were periodically made from people claiming to have seen her. Her friends and family in Alice Springs, Australia began raising funds to look for her. Her mother has spent years traveling from Australia to California over and over every few months to look for her daughter. This is a clip from the Netflix documentary Murder Mountain, where Asha's mother is handing out flyers to people asking if they have seen Asha. Officer Gregory Van Patten of the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office reports that this is indeed a very strange disappearance because it occurred in broad daylight right in front of a restaurant's patrons and staff. Officer Van Patten states that there are several theories in the disappearance. Some believe that Asha walked into the nearby ocean. Others think she may have been picked up or abducted by a passing car. Van Patten states it may have been her goal to, quote, drop off the face of the earth. He states that the investigation has gone cold and pleads with the public for any information they may have on Asha Kreimer's disappearance. Asha's mother, Janine, continues to travel to the States in search of any information on her daughter's whereabouts. Asha Kreimer, when last seen, was 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighed between 135 and 150 pounds. She has brown hair and brown eyes with a noticeable gap between her front teeth, a birthmark under her left breast, and a tattoo of a red triangle on her right wrist. She speaks with a pronounced Australian accent. Now, as we always do on this channel, we discuss the elements of food and death. On this playlist, we have a little hope. We don't know that these people have passed. We do know that Asha Kreimer disappeared from the Rollerville Cafe, so we're going to talk a little bit about the cafe now. As you can see here, the diner is located in what appears to be a former home turned restaurant. It's very small and cozy inside, and the tables are close together, making it even stranger that someone could disappear from such a small space, especially in the middle of the day. There is a wraparound porch, again similar to a home, and a busy street out in front of the restaurant. The surrounding area is woody and very much classic Northern California coastline in nature. There's a kind of quirky sign on the side of the building of a cartoon female figure on roller skates. There is also an outdoor seating area that is kind of semi-covered and features a fire pit. There's a lighthouse nearby sitting on the ocean cliffs that is absolutely beautiful, and I can definitely see why people would be drawn to this area. The menu features items like fish and chips, fish tacos, eggs Benedict, omelets, blueberry pancakes, burgers, very standard American cafe fare. It's a very cute and quaint little spot that will be forever tied to the disappearance of a beautiful young woman. If you have any information or know of anything at all that may assist investigators on this case, please contact the Mendocino County Sheriff's through the tip line that has been set up specifically for this case at 213-986-7671. You can remain anonymous. If you know anything about Asha Kreimer or her disappearance, please reach out and let's try to bring some comfort to this family. Thank you so much for joining me today on Dining with the Disappeared. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more. Please stay safe and be kind to each other. And I'll see you next time on Dining with Death.